Hi everyone, welcome back to this week's video. It's Mark here from Digital Groove Online. I'm going to follow on from last week's video where I made the classic house track and it was a piano vibe house, and we talked in the middle of it around using sort of the MIDI plugins and how I generate chords, and more importantly how we get that back into our system so that we can actually play around with those notes, record them in a different key, or do whatever really. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to bring in the chord generator, I'm going to bring in the arpeggiator. I'm going to show you how to record that MIDI back into another track so that you can play around with those notes. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on the house chords. If I type that in and go to all, sorry, MIDI effects. Didn't filter it enough for me. So we go to the MIDI effects and we go for this house 4 to go. This was what I used. So let's bring it in to a MIDI track. And then we can pick any sort of piano sound or any sort of sound really. If you want to make sort of a more tech house style lead, you can use any sort of synthesizer, but for the purpose of this I'm going to use a piano. So for that I'm going to use the M1. I'm going to drag that in. And I'm going to load the M1 piano house sound, which is here. Now I'm going to turn that down just a little bit so we can hear the chords and just arm that track. Cool. Okay, so what I meant last week by using one note, we can trigger that chord. If I now put this MIDI clip in here, and the note I was hitting was this one here, A sharp. Okay, so if I put one note here, set that 16th, which is fine. And I'm going to put the metronome on, and we're going to maybe just try and make up a little bit of a rhythm. So and we'll just loop that section up there and bring it across to here. So what we can do then is we can move these around. Just turn on the headphones so we can hear it. So let's have a listen to how that sounds. Yeah, something like that's quite cool. Okay, so that sounds not too bad, just something to start with. but the purpose of the video is to show you how to get those notes. So obviously they're playing chords. If we look back down here in the corner, we can see that this MIDI chord generator is upping it by 3 semitones here, and 7 semitones here, and minus 12 semitones here. So when you play one note, that's what it's doing. It's taking the note that you're playing, shifting it up 3 semitones, 7 semitones, and down 1 octave as well. But we can record this back in to a normal MIDI track itself. So if I put this just below, and the input, we're going to select the M1, which is here, and pre-effect. You can change that if you want to. And we actually arm the track here, and we hit record. So if you look below, what that has done is it has actually put it into the piano roll for you, and now you have the ability to manipulate those chords, change the rhythm, change the key, and just basically make it your own. So it's a good way of generating and starting ideas within your track. So if I just bring this back out to here, we'll highlight that section and just finish that off. So what we can do now is just take this out of the way, bring this up here, but now we have to turn off the chord generator. And if we listen back, we should be able to hear. And now the beauty of that is that we can go in here and we can change things around. You know, or what you can do is, you know, you can put this all back into the one. So you've got a rhythm there now. And obviously you can play around with that till your heart's content. But I suppose just showing you this here, it's a great way of generating ideas of some of the MIDI chord plugins that are already available inside Ableton Live. The next one I would like to show you would be the arpeggiator itself. So you can create arpeggiators and you can do the same thing and you can record them back in. And you can create all different interesting variations and just keep recording away and it'll give you those notes back in. So let me just bring in, on another MIDI track, I'm going to bring in, let's say, a serum. And we'll just pick some sort of pluck sound. Didn't mean to do that. Let me try this one here. Yeah, something like that might work. So what we can do then is we can take, let's even just take this down, the MIDI file, and we will Control J that just to consolidate it. And we'll just make that chord. Okay. We can then grab the arpeggiator, which is under MIDI effects as well. And we can set it to, let's say 16th first of all. Turn that one off. can change the rate and it gives you a different rhythm if you listen to the click track. Using the gate makes it a little bit more, takes the decay off it. We can do the same thing again, put in a MIDI track. We can take the input from Serum and just record arm the track. And we can bring that up and turn off the arpeggiator. And now we have the freedom to move the we can then take different sections and just loop a shorter part. So you can come up with some really interesting starting points for your track. If that was a melodic house track, let's see. We could Control J that. Actually, no, I'm going to keep stretching that out. To number 9, length bar. And we'll Control J that now. And let's say we create another, we'll duplicate that Serum there. And we'll maybe take these notes out here. And we'll start with the root note. And we'll take that right over to the end. Actually, we'll just start it till about here. And we'll pick some sort of bass note for that. They're just good ideas, starters, being able to do this. So let's have a look at abstract. Quite like this leaving Laurel bass. However, I don't like this. So let's have a listen now. Take the arpeggiator is off. That's better. Let's see what this sounds like then. So percussion sample just to see what that sounds like. Percussion loops. Yeah, go with the hi-hats maybe. Something like that, just to keep it in time. So now we can start experimenting. So we can maybe just loop that section there now. So just as you can see, it's a good way of generating those ideas at the very start. And you know, there's no harm in just jamming away, finding some notes and tones that work either in the chord generator or in the actual arpeggio itself, and record it back in, have a look at it and play around with those notes. Sometimes getting some sort of drone noise is a really good way of generating ideas just off something so simple that holds the same sort of chord the whole way through. So let's say, what's that? That is A sharp. Let me just see if I can find something on Splice that I have, just to show you what I mean. So we'll go for like a atmosphere. And let's see, A sharp minor, something like that might be cool. I'm actually just going to solo this really low. Let's see what the bass sounds like with it. a little bit of swing, I think, on this here, so let me just see if I can fix that. That's better. Maybe add a delay unit. Yeah, so all that started with using some of the MIDI generators within inside the MIDI effects. At the very start, we took, there are many, you can try them out. You know, you can go into the chords and use some of the presets, or you can look through, you know, some of the arpeggiator settings as well in here. They have some cool stuff in there as well. And you can drag those out and they're already sort of pre-made. Pick a nice sound with it and play around with it. Once you're happy enough with how it sounds, re-record it back in the MIDI. As you can see, the arpeggio wasn't really good at the start, so we started taking notes out and moving things around and making it fit a little rhythm inside our heads. And then from there we could then adding the bass line to it to give it a bit more melodic feel. And then adding the atmosphere. And the percussion just to keep it in time. So there you go. I just wanted to show you that this week, and hopefully that, for me, it's all about generating the initial ideas. Sometimes it's very hard to sit down in front of a workstation and go, what do I want to make? And the more weapons you have at your disposal, whether it be samples or, you know, pre-made MIDI files or these types of things here, we can drag in these little generators and try and jam out some ideas. Something will spark that initial idea into something a bit more creative. So hope you enjoyed that. Get practicing. Let me know in the comments how you get on. If there's anything you get stuck on, you're unsure of, I do try to answer comments, so if you can just let me know, I will be glad to help. As always, I'm going to upload this into my community afterwards. Every YouTube project, as long as it's not something that I'm working on for a label, gets uploaded into my community where I do behind the scenes videos once or twice a month, and I put up project files and things like that there, and there are like-minded people who are going to get involved and get engaged in answering questions and bouncing off each other, and who knows, maybe some collaborations along the way in the future. It's brand new, so you can look at the link in the description. And if you're a little bit more shy and you don't want to get involved in the forums, but you would like to do some one-to-ones, you can also look at my website, digitalgrooveonline.com. So until next week, thanks again.